Chodesh Tov V'Urach. We should all have a wonderful month, Bezat Hashem, filled with beracha, hatzlacha, and wonders and miracles for us and all of Israel, in Eretz Yisrael, and in diaspora, everywhere the Jews live. Should be peace and tranquility and a month of Torah and Yirat Shamayim, Bezat Hashem. Our Chachamim teach us that Hakol Olech Achar Hatchala. And many times, things go after how a person starts things. So if we start our Chodesh in the right foot, with Torah, with Tefillah, with Kedusha, it's a very, very powerful thing to do. So be zochet to a good month, filled with blessing. So our hopes and prayers are that we all have an excellent month.
Alhamdulillah.
And mitchazek with Torah and Yirat Shamayim. That is the only thing that will bring bracha to Am Yisrael. This is our greatest weapon, and the most powerful thing we need is Torah, Bezat Hashem. The Parasha teaches us that Yitzhak and Rivka are barren. After 20 years of marriage, 10 years of trying to conceive a kid, they're unsuccessful. And finally, the Torah says, Vayetar Yitzhak l'Adonai, lenochach ishto. Yitzhak literally begs and prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the direction of his wife, ki akara ki she was barren. She couldn't have kids. Vayater lo Adonai. Hashem answered his prayer, his prayers. Vataha Rivka ishto. And Rivka, his wife, conceived and she was pregnant. Immediately the Torah says, Vaitrotzetsu habanim bekirba. The kids literally run. It comes from the word ritza. It means that she had pain. She was in pregnancy, and she had contractions, and the kids are kicking and pushing and shoving inside, and she had a lot of pain. That's the pshat of the pasuk. If so, lama ze anochi. If that's the case, that I have birth pains and complications, lama ze anochi. Why should I live? What does she do? Vatelech lidosh et Adonai. And she goes and seeks God. So what is going on here? What's the pshat? What is... Okay. So what is going on? She says she has birth complications and pain, and she says, if so, why should I live? That's your reaction. What's going on? So Rashi writes, Rashi was very bothered by this, and he says, what does it mean? Vaitrotzetsu habanim bekirba. Al kochach hamikra hazeh omer darsheni. It's very hard to explain the simple pshat of this pasuk. Why is Rashi so bothered by the pshat? Just say she had birth complications. Right? You guys with me? What's so difficult to say? She had birth complications, and that's it. What is Rashi's about to say a drash? What was the drash? Shestam mai retzitza zo v'katav im ken lama ze anochi. Why is it that Rashi's bothered? It says that vaitrotzetsu habanim. If you want to say she had contractions and she had pain through labor, im ken lama ze anochi. Why is it worth living? So Rashi is very bothered, chas v'shalom, that the tzaddiket Rivka would say, because of the difficulty of pregnancy, why should I be alive? That's how one of the imaot is going to speak. Chas v'shalom. There actually is a midrash, the Chizkuni writes it, it's incredible, that says that because she complained, she was supposed to be she was supposed to be zocheh for 12 shvatim. Wow. She was zocheh for one, Yaakov, who was the Abba of the Shvatim. But she was supposed to have 11 more. And you know where that's hinted? That she lacked 11 of those, 11 tribes? How does it say that she was pregnant, she had twins? It says that she had twins. How did it say? Tomim bevitna. How did it say? How do you write te'omim in Hebrew? There's supposed to be an aleph and a yud in it. How does the Torah write it? Tomim. Taf, vav, mem, mem. Right? By Tamar, when she had Zerach and Peretz, she had twins, it says Tomim Maleh. And she writes why? Because she has two tzaddikim. But by Rivka, it says Tomim, Chaser. Why? Because she had a Rasha. One of the twins was a Rasha, Esav. But what letters are missing in the word? Yud and the letter Aleph. 10 and 1. It's 11. Says the Datsakenim, the Chitzkuni, sorry. He says that why 11 is missing from here? Because she lacked 11 of the Shevatim she was supposed to have. And the fact that she complained, she was punished and she did not have that. That's a drash. It's not the pshat. Rashi is bothered by the pshat and he doesn't want to say that she complained. And therefore he says her complaint was something spiritual. She had 2 kids and every time she would pass by the Beit HaMidrash, she would feel kicks. She would feel kicks in her stomach that the kid wants to escape and come out. And when she would walk by Beit Avodah Zarah, what would happen? The kid would kick and he wanted to run out. So she was bothered. What did she do? She goes to seek God. Anyone knows what that means?
Asked for an answer.
Where did she go?
So
Rashi writes she went to Beit Midrash Shel Shem. Because if she had the option, Shem was older. Shem is the grandfather of Ever. And therefore she went to Beit Midrash Shel Shem. She probably went to the bigger Rebbe. And she went to his Beit Midrash. That's what Rashi writes. And what happens? Comes the Ramban and says that's not what the Pasuk says. It says Lidrosh et Hashem. Maybe Shem is in Hashem, but it says Yud Kei Vav Kei. V'terech Lidrosh et Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So the Ramban says she went to pray to God. She did it bodedut. She prayed, she secluded herself and prayed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But according to Rashi, she went to the Beit Midrash of Shem. So what was the answer? How was she comforted after hearing his answer? What did he answer? So how does that answer her problem?
it's not a confused person, it's 2 different.
Chazak Baruch. She didn't know she had twins. She thought she had 1 kid, but she thought he had a split personality. Poseach Ashtei Seifim. That one time he wants to be an Eved Hashem, and one day he wants to be what? Oved Avodah Zarah. Now that she knows that it's 2 kids, alright, she knows she has an Oved Avodah Zarah. But we'll work with it. We could try to be Machzir Oto B'Tshuva, we could be Mashpia on him, to try and be an Eved Hashem, but at least he's not a dual personality. He doesn't pretend like he's a Talmid Chacham, and really he's not. That is something that she was very bothered by.
Crazy idea, by the way.
It's a crazy idea, and I'll prove the idea.
No, I mean, it's amazing, but it's such a, she was comforted by the fact that only one of them was
even though he's an Oved, a legit 100% Oved Avodah Zarah, she was more comforted than that, than having someone who's a dual personality. Sometimes he's Talmid Chacham, sometimes he does whatever he wants. God forbid Avodah Zarah.
Why didn't she know that? Why didn't she have Nevuah?
No, actually, we don't see that. That's why the Rashi was bothered, and he didn't say that she spoke to Hashem. It's a form of nevuah, because the pasuk says that Hashem answered her. Mm-hmm. And how did it say? Hashem said to her. So what does Rashi say? She said to the Navi. She said to Shem, and through Shem, with Ruach HaKodesh, she told her. Even the Ramban, who says that he spoke to her directly, she spoke to him directly, he says that he doesn't say she had nevuah. The Ramban is very bothered by the Imshech al-Psukim. But regardless, this idea is incredible. The fact that she didn't want to have someone as a dual personality. We actually see the same episode with Esav relive itself. In next week's parasha, in this week's parasha already at the end, after Yaakov takes the beracha from Esav, he runs away and he goes to the house of Lavan. After the house of Lavan for 20 years, he's on his way for 2 years, and he has the famous episode where he comes to contact with his brother. Vaishlach Yaakov Malachim. Parashat Vaishlach. Vaishlach Yaakov Malachim. He sent angels and messengers to Esav, his brother. What happens when he comes into contact with his brother? What happens? He was very scared at first, and then finally he hugs him. And then they say, we'll meet at Seir. I'll meet you down the road. What did he do? He checked line in. Very good. What did he say? I'll meet you at Seir. And then he said, meaning we'll meet in 5 miles down the road. You walk, I'll walk Leiti. I'll walk slowly. I have my wives, my kids, the cattle. We're going to go a little bit slower. You take your Bugatti, go fast. We'll take our little broke down Mustang and we'll chill. We're going to come a little slower. We'll meet you down the line. And what happens? He runs away. Abotai, why is Yaakov Avinu so terrified to walk with Esav? You just lived in the house of Lavan for 22 years. 20 years. 20 years in the house of Lavan. The Zohar Kadosh says that Esav was terrified of Lavan. Lavan was like the biggest witch in witchcraft, in Avodah Zarah. The worst, the biggest klipa in the world was Lavan. And what? Yaakov lived there for 20 years. That's when he told him, Lavan Garti, v'tarag mitzvot shamarti. That was a line of intimidation to Esav. Listen, I was just at his house for 20 years. When Esav heard that, he said, wow, you were there for 20 years. Well, how are you here? How are you alive?
Listen, I'm from the hood.
Right. I know the boys in Harlem. We're good.
I grew up in the hood, right?
I grew up with them. And I was alright over there. So I'm not scared of you. So if so, why is Yaakov Avinu so scared to walk with Esav? Listen to this pirush. I heard it from a rabbi, one of the Rebbeim, the Magidei Shurim in Muncie. His name was Rabbi Eliezer. Very big Talmid Chacham. And he said this chidush, I don't know in the name of who. I think it was his own chidush, but it's pashut and it's true and it's beautiful. In the house of Lavan, anybody know how Lavan looked?
He's good looking.
He's good looking, but how did he dress up? Like a full-fledged Oved Avodah Zarah, from head to toe. He wasn't scared. I don't know if he looked good either.
That's what I heard. I heard recently. They said he was like good looking and he would like use that to like sway all the women. Like he. Esav
was tzad befiv. The Ramban writes, tzad nashim tahat ba'alehem. He would literally trap women under the hands of her husband, meaning in front of her husband. He'd go and spit some game, as they say, in front of her husband, and he would take the wife in front of her husband and do averot chamurot bar minan. That's Esav. That's what's kitzayid befiv. That's one of the pirushim. But anyways, Lavan, what would he do? He was dressed like a rasha from head to toe. He was an Oved Avodah Zarah. He was proud of it. How did Esav dress up?
Like a chassid.
He looked like a chassid. He looked like a tzaddik. He looked like an Eved Hashem. He had long peot, a long beard. He grew up in the house of, not in Beit Yaakov, in Beit Yitzhak. He literally grew up in Beit Yitzhak. And what kitzad befiv, he'd say, Abba, ketzad ma'asrim et hatevet, et hamelach, how do you give ma'asrot for salt? He played and he looked like a tzaddik. So Yaakov Avinu said, I've lived in the house of Lavan, but my kids, they know how to make a clear distinction between Lavan HaRasha and what a tzaddik is supposed to look like. But when you have a tzaddik, quote unquote, who is really a complete, full-blown Rasha Merusha, who is dressed externally like a tzaddik, Yaakov Avinu was terrified for his kids. He said, if my kids grow up or walk with a person like this, they'll see him with his kippah, with his peot, with his hat, with his religious look, and really, when he wants to act, he does whatever he wants. He eats whatever he wants, he says whatever he wants. He might look externally like a tzaddik, but that's the biggest chilul Hashem in the world, and more than that, that will influence his kids. And Yaakov Avinu was petrified of that. And that is a very, very big lesson. I remember once I was driving in the street with my daughter, and my daughter sees a motorcyclist with a long beard. She said, Abba, look, a rabbi. The guy was driving a Harley Davidson, and he had a long beard. And on literally a Harley Davidson. And she said, Abba, look at this rabbi. And I told the Chana, that is not a rabbi. Be careful, that's not a rabbi. The guy has tattoos, earrings, and he's bald-headed and a long beard. Yaakov Avinu was terrified to be with Lavan. He was fine, but to be with Esav, he said, that's something I cannot take. And that's a big lesson for us, Rabotai. We all wear a kippah. We all are representatives of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So make sure you live up to your reputation. You have the biggest zechut in the world. I'll end with the words of the Pelewetz. The Pelewetz writes that there's no bigger zechut for a person to be an Eved Hashem, more than all of the physical pleasures that we have in this world. The brachot that you have, panasa, health, anything you have physically. Nothing comes near the zechut to sit and learn Torah. If someone is zochet to be chovesh a bet midrash, you get to be sitting in the bet midrash learning Torah. You have to walk around literally every day of your life celebrating. There's no bigger zechut for a Jew than to be an Eved Hashem, to want to be an Eved Hashem, to be zochet to learn Torah Hashem. That's the greatest present we have in the world. How many people are there in the world? There's 8 billion people. How much of that population are Yehudim, are Jews? 0.002. There's about 15, 16 million Jews in the world. 0.002. That already means your DNA says in it, you're a Yehudi, you're Ben Shel Melech. You already have to be ecstatic, excited, very, very enthusiastic about the fact that you're a Jew. And even more so, if out of those 15 million Jews, you are zochet to be one of the Jews that has a connection in his daily life to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You get to daven, you get to pray to Hashem every day of your life. What a present! And even more so if you are one of those who also is zochet to be kovei etim LaTorah. There's no greater present in the world. So when you walk out with your kippah, which you should proudly, you have to understand that it's your uniform. You are not just representing yourself, who I am. It's not a badge that I work for this guy. When a person has a uniform in his store, in his whatever store he works in, that uniform is a fact of who you are working for. There's a book called All for the Boss. We have to be Avdei HaMelech, servants of the king. And we have a uniform, that's our tzitziot, our kippah, and we wear them proudly. So live up to that. You walk in the street, you have to be very careful. You want to cut somebody off, think twice before you do it. You know how many times a person sees someone doing that? Unfortunately, someone comes. I said last story, but really, this is last story, really. I walked into a restaurant here to grab breakfast quickly, very early in the morning. And I thought the restaurant I saw the manager opening the restaurant. I prayed nets, and then I went to go get a croissant for my wife, because we had a long day. I went to get a croissant quickly. The manager, I know him, he literally opened the store of Cafe Vert. There's a guy standing about to walk in. And I thought I was the first one. I saw him opening it. I come to walk in. And I walk straight to the register. And I realized that a guy walks in right behind me. And he was standing on the side. And then I realized that maybe he was waiting here for the guy to open. And I walked in before him. So I stepped aside. I said, sorry, were you here? He says, actually I was, but it's okay. I said, no, I thought he just opened. I'm so sorry. Please go. And I was in a rush. I stepped back and I let him go. He says, wow, I didn't know you Jews are like that. He's a Jew. He says, you should know that I was about to leave here with the stigma of religious Jews. This is what he tells me. Religious Jews don't have feelings. They don't care. They cut you off in line. He said, you just changed my perspective. Thank you. That's literally what he told me. I said, wow, Baruch Hashem, thank God. Kapat havanot on the croissant. For what? For a croissant 30 seconds earlier, or for a Jew walking around who knows how long with the stigma about religious Jews, that's who they are. Rabotai, wearing a kippah is a schut, it's a privilege, but it's a great responsibility. And that we should know. We are Avdei HaMelech, and we have to show the entire world who we are and what being a Jew is all about. And not be like Esav, who externally looked like a religious Jew, but unfortunately the opposite, inside was rotten. Chazak u'Baruch Rabotai.